Our first one is Fabien from Symfony. Many of us know him. Fabien, you are, well, Symfony is kind of one of the biggest ecosystems within PHP. So much is built on top of Symfony. And I asked you the question, how do you manage all of that? Like millions and millions of package downloads, huge ecosystem. And yeah, we wanted to hear you share your experience with us about that today. Fabien, great to see you here. You're calling in from remote. You couldn't make it here to Amsterdam, but that's totally fine. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, great.
We're feeling fantastic.
Yeah, we're so excited. Also to learn about what you have to say about Symfony. So actually, without further ado, Fabien, the stage is yours, and we are here. We're listening. We're listening very closely and hitting the microphone, but yeah.
Thank you all. Super excited to be with you today. As you said, Symfony is a huge ecosystem, and sometimes it's kind of a bit scary. And I'm not thinking too much about it because, it's kind of overwhelming. So maybe I'm going to start with a few numbers about Symfony and the Symfony ecosystem and the Symfony community and what is Symfony really. So the first one is I had a look at statistics from packages recently, and as you can see here, more than 25% of all the downloads on packages are actually for Symfony packages. I've done this keynote a month and a half ago at Pimcore Inspire, and the number that you can see here at the top is the numbers that I had for this conference, and I've just updated them for today's talk. And as you can see, in less than 2 months, we went from 37 billion downloads to 38 something. So we added 1.5 billion downloads. It's kind of a vanity metric, of course, because CI, CDs, etc. So it doesn't represent something that is really useful, but still it says something. More interesting is the number of downloads per day. We went from 28 to 31. That's a huge increase. I'm not sure if this is just temporary, just because we've done a bunch of security releases lately. So people have been upgrading all their packages and projects to the latest versions of Symfony. Maybe that's that. We will see in a month from now. But this is super exciting. And of course, at the same time, super scary, because whenever I'm doing a release, I need to make sure that it's not going to break anything in the PHP ecosystem. So I would say that nowadays Symfony is kind of the de facto PHP standard library, just because it is used by many projects out there, but maybe more importantly, it's also used by many popular open source projects. So this is just a small subset of the projects using Symfony, but you can see that some of them are just using a few components, a few packages coming from Symfony. And some other ones are using the full stack framework. So you can see that Drupal, Joomla, are using the full stack framework. When it comes to Magento or Laravel, they are just using a few of the components, but they're all using some part of what we are providing from the Symfony project. And this is really the two sides of Symfony. This is really a project with two different kind of directions. The first one is providing a set of decoupled components that you can use whenever you need them. They are kind of the foundation of the Symfony project. So if you need an HTTP client, you can get one from Symfony. If you want a way to send email, we have another component for that, etc. So we have many components that you can use kind of standalone, or you can embrace the full Symfony project and use it as a full stack framework. Nowadays, you can use it as a full stack framework for web applications, APIs, or for the console. If you are doing things on a terminal, we have a console component. And brand new in Symfony 8.1, we also have a TUI, terminal UI component that is just brand new, that I've created just because I wanted to create my agents in PHP. So I needed something that was pretty solid, and that's where I've started to work on a new component for Symfony. Anyway, One of the big decisions that I've made many, many years ago for Symfony 2, I think. It was the case for Symfony 1, but Symfony 1 was kind of managed by subversions. It was a different world. But from day one in Symfony 2, I decided to use a mono repository for Symfony. And I think it has been one of the most interesting and important decision I've ever made for Symfony, because it means that we can scale way better, and we can automate a lot of things, and it makes it much easier to manage a project having everything in just one big repository. So if you want to have a look at Symfony, you can just have a look at the GitHub Symfony/Symfony repository, and everything is in there. All the components, most of the bundles, etc. Which means that this is kind of the write-only repositories, because you don't install the Symfony/Symfony package. It would not make sense, because you would get everything from Symfony. It's not the way it works nowadays. You are installing what we are calling the subtree splits, so that they are kind of the read-only packages that you can install depending on your needs. So I'm talking about the one mono repository for Symfony. Actually, we have 6 of them, just because we've been investing in more than just PHP. So we have Symfony UX nowadays, which is another mono repository, but also because different life cycle. So for instance, we have a Symfony AI mono repository as well. It would not make sense to have everything related to AI in the main Symfony repository, because we are doing more releases, because it's brand new, and we need a bit more flexibility there. So we have 6 of them. We also have the polyfills and a few other ones. The thing that is super interesting is, even if we are managing just 6 repositories, where we are managing pull requests, tickets, and all the activities that you can find in the Git repository, we are kind of managing more than 320 read-only repositories, and that's the ones that are available on packages. So that there is some magic happening there, and I'm going to talk a bit more about it. Just to give you some more numbers, and then we're going to talk about something else. During the last year, we have made or created about 5,000 different tags. And you can imagine that doing that by hand is almost impossible, because I'm still the one doing all those releases. And we have added about 100 new repositories. Most of them are AI related, because we've started to work on Symfony AI maybe a year and a half ago, and we made it public, I think, a year ago, actually. As you can imagine, doing that all by hand is kind of tedious and error prone. So I have automated most of those tasks nowadays. So why Symfony is and has been a success for so long? I've been to think about it a bit more, and I think it comes down to a few things. So the first one is stability in the leadership. So I've been working on Symfony and for Symfony for the last 20 plus years. Studied the first prototype in 2004, released as an open source project in 2005. So it's 20 plus years now. It's not just about me, it's about the core team. So we have one of the largest core team of all the projects on GitHub, with more than 25, I think it's all about 30 different people in the core team nowadays. And the great thing about the core team is many people have been with us for many years, more than 10 years. Not just a couple of them, many of them. So it means more stability. It means that we have, we are talking about one direction, one vision that is kind of stable. Talking about the vision, it's also about being opinionated. Not necessarily when we were talking about Symfony 1, but Symfony 2 is way more opinionated. And when we're talking about Symfony 2, it's really Symfony 2 and all the newest versions, up to Symfony 8 nowadays. We are trying to have kind of a consistent code base. We're trying to rely on open standards. Like, early on, it was all about HTTP, but we have more nowadays. Making sure that the components are working well together so that we can assemble them. And one of the critical decisions that I've made, apart from the mono repositories, was the fact that I've adopted dependency injection 20 years ago. It was brand new in the PHP world, and it was brand new, I think, with many scripting languages, more or less. And I think it has been key to the success of Symfony, because it means that we can have decoupled components, and you can bring some of your own dependencies directly into the project. So super interesting. The success of Symfony is also about predictability. It's about stability of the code base. So stability in the sense that we have strict semantic versioning policies, where we need to make sure that when you upgrade from one patch version or one minor version to the next, nothing is going to break in your code. If something breaks, this is a bug. It can happen, of course, but this is a bug, and we need to fix it maybe. But more importantly, we want to make sure that you can upgrade from one major version to the next major version as easily as possible. So we have a deprecation policy, which means that when we deprecate things, you are going to have logs of what is not available anymore, and or what is not going to be available anymore in the next version still works. And we are trying to always have an upgrade path from one version to the next. So if your code is working with the latest version of a major version, so 6.4, 7.4, it's always .4. If it works without any deprecation notices, you can upgrade to .0, n+1.0, so 7.0.8.0 easily, and it's going to work. Again, if it doesn't work, there's a bug somewhere that needs to be fixed. So this is the first thing, super important. The second one is predictability. So we are releasing 2 minor versions every year, end of May, end of November, and we've been doing that for many, many years now. And we also have one long-term support release every 2 years. And of course, every single month, we have patch releases. Something that is super interesting as well in the Symfony project is the fact that we don't have a roadmap. And we don't need to have a roadmap for a couple of reasons. The first one is, if something is not ready for one version, you need to wait at most 6 months. So it's not the end of the world. The second reason is all the contributions in Symfony, they come from a need from someone working on a real world project. So it's not something that you can plan for. It's really, oh, I have this need. I need to create something. I've experimented it in a project. It does work. It adds value to the framework. I'm going to contribute it back. The last one, and this is more or less something that is kind of a standard nowadays, responsible security disclosure. We are going to talk about it in a couple of minutes, because this is changing with AI. And of course, we have a large community, and you know that an open source project without a community and ways for users to actually have conversations is not really a community. So Slack, GitHub, we have a bunch of conferences, large documentation, and a care team to make sure that we are inclusive. This is super important as well. So how are we managing Symfony? Managing Symfony at scales means that we need to automate as much as possible. So, and I have invested a lot of time in automating everything and having a strong tooling. I think I've started kind of right at the beginning of Symfony 1 and Symfony 2 as well. And this is kind of a continuous improvement cycle where we are improving. Mostly every single version is a good way to find things that are not optimal and trying to optimize them. Of course, in the early days, things were mostly human-led. It was kind of a manual process, error-prone. At some point, I was like, okay, I need to document how I'm doing things. That's where I've kind of wrote a bunch of run books. It was, less error prone. It is still very flexible, because whenever I had a problem, I was the one trying to think about how can I solve the problem and unblock the situations. So the early days, when I'm talking about the early days, it's really from 2005 to a year ago, or maybe a couple of years ago. So it was a mix of dedicated tools, a mix of scripts, and me doing the things. Nowadays, the last 2 years, everything has been very different. I'm automating even more, still using dedicated tools, still using scripts, but nowadays it's mostly driven by me and LLMs. So it's me being in the loop and LLMs doing the work. It works super well because an LLM is super flexible. So if we have a problem that is kind of new, the LLM can reason about the problem, give me solutions, help me figuring out the problem, and we can then improve the tools, improve the scripts, or improve the skills. But at the end of the day, this is me as a human controlling everything still. Okay, so let's talk about the monorepository a bit more. So as I said before, we have a bunch of monorepositories. Oh, by the way, you can have a look at them here. And Twig is also another one. It is a small one, but still super interesting. So each monorepository has a split sh.json configuration file at the root of the repository. So this is the configuration for Twig here. Pretty simple one. We have more complex ones for Symfony, where we have bridges and things like that. But here, this is super simple. We have a name and we have a directory. So basically, a subtree split is really about extracting a directory from the monorepository to its own repository, more or less. Then we have some defaults, and tagging is something I'm going to talk about a bit later in the presentation. So the first use case for the monorepository is merging a pull request. So all the pull requests are actually submitted on the monorepository, merge them, and then we need to do something about it. So here you can see that I'm using a GHSF binary. So this is the tool that we are using for merging merging pull requests. And this is interesting because we have some automation there. So of course we are checking the CI here, and then we have a question about squashing the commits. So sometimes we are just squashing the commits because they are not interesting enough to keep. Then we have a category. The category is handling so many features. So the category is the kind of pull request that we have. So it can be a feature, it can be a bug, it can be about data like translations, it can be a minor thing, we don't care about it, a typo somewhere in a command, or security related. Nowadays we have one more, which is coding standards. And you will see that in the process, it's super important. Then we are sending a message to the contributor, and maybe we are opening a documentation issue if this is a new feature and if the contributor has not created one. So this is the merge commit that you can see here. So as you can see, we have the category, we have the pull request number, and then we have all the information about the pull request. And this is the commit message that is going to be super important for all the automations that we have, from changelogs to blog posts. So when you merge a pull request, split sh is going to get a webhook from GitHub, and it's going to do some magic. So here you can see on the screen that I have some directories, and the directories are the ones that were changed by the pull request. So we've figured out that this is the JSON streamer package. So we are going to split it. You can see that we created just one commit, then we split, and then we push to the. So that's how we can synchronize the monorepository with the read-only one. So this is happening in real time. 2 seconds between merging a pull request and having the commit in the read-only repository. When we want to create a new release, and that's the old way of doing things, I'm going to talk about a new way in a minute. You just create, but semantically, you just create a tag in the monorepository. So this one is for Twig, maybe. Oh no, this is polyfill. And you push the tag. That's all. That's all you're doing manually. everything else is kind of automated by SplitSH. And this is the exact same story as a merge request. This is just splitting a reference, a Git reference. The difference is that here, it figures out that we are talking about a tag. So the way it's going to behave is going to be a bit different. So this is how it works. So here you can see that we don't have any subtrees, we don't have any directories, we don't have anything. So here what we're doing is saying, oh, okay, this is a tag, I need to split everything. So that's why I've taken the example of polyfills, because we have less packages here. For Symfony, it's way more. So we are not creating any new commits because, of course, we are tagging something that does exist. We are splitting and we are pushing everything, and we are creating the tag automatically. Something that is super interesting here is even if someone is merging a pull request in between, it's not going to be a problem, because we are making sure that we are tagging the exact commit that comes from the monorepository commit. So we have the guarantee that we are tagging the exact same commit from the monorepository to the subtree splits. So we are maintaining a database and an association between all the commits everywhere. Coming back to the automation and the categories here. So SplitSH is also creating the chance logs for GitHub for the main monorepository. So if you want to have a look at everything that happened in one version, you can get them from the monorepository. Or if you are more interested in one specific read-only repository, that's also possible. And then you have a link to have a look at all the changes that happened there. The very first thing, I think this is the very first one, where I was like, oh, I need an LLM to help me, is creating blog posts. Not for Symfony, because there is another process for that. Here, this is one for Twig. So I have a skill, and the skill is having a look at everything that happened in the new version versus the old one. Again, the fact that we have categories for the pull request helped tremendously, and it helps the LLM figure out what is important, what is not important. Sometimes, and this is polyfill again, sometimes the LLM is not able to figure out what is important or not. So I have gates. So human in the loop saying, okay, whenever you figure out the plan, just give me the plan, I'm going to validate the plan. And here I'm saying, oh, this one is not super important, you don't need to talk about it, everything else looks good, and then it's going to generate the blog post. Generate the blog post, pushing it to the Symfony blog, not published by default. Then I can have a look, have some kind of back and forth with the LLM, tweaking things, and then at some point publishing it live. So this is something I've been doing for the last maybe few months. It works super well, and things that were kind of done for Symfony were not done for polyfills or Twig or Symfony AI or Symfony UX. Now, way easier, and I think it brings a lot of value to the users. So this is kind of the two skills that I have that are kind of not that long if you have a look, and resilient in the sense that this is really coding via English text, which means that it's way more flexible than just a script that is trying to do something that is very deterministic. So the fact that AI is not deterministic is super useful here. It's also about continuous improvement. I think I'm doing changes every single day in those skills. I have many more. And whenever I find something that, kind of went wrong or could be better or we could do faster or whatever, I'm asking my LLM to actually improve the skill. And this is, just one example. Okay. Now, so this was kind of the old way, talking more about the tools and SplitSH and how it works behind the scenes. Now, when I'm releasing Symfony, it is way more different from the old way. So nowadays, I'm just running my agent. By the way, this is a PHP agent. It's not Cloud, it's not Codex, it's not anything. It's really me doing the work with my own agent, which is super interesting. Everything is in PHP. So the prompt, as you see, is just release Symfony. That's all. Then I have a skill. It figures out that, I want to do something related to the Symfony release, ask me a bunch of questions. Is it a patch release? Is it a security one? Is it a minor one, a major one, etc.? I'm wondering if I could automate that part as well. Actually, this is interesting. I think it could figure it out. Then, and the same goes for the second question, actually. Is it the last version of a branch or something like that? It asks me a bunch of questions. Then it's like, okay, I'm going to release 6.4.7.4.8.0. And I'm like, no, I'm just going to do 7.4. And then this is really a conversation back and forth between me and the agent, making sure that we can go to the release, which is way more complicated than the polyfill ones. Human in the loop confirmation rules. So this is a sentence I have in all my skills, and maybe at some point I'm going to remove that. But for now, there is always wait for confirmation, where the LLM is like, okay, this is the plan. Do you validate the plan? Can I go ahead? Always. Because if not, this is too scary still. So the second thing is we are maintaining a lot of different branches in parallel. As of today, we are maintaining 6.4, 7.4, 8.0, 8.1, 8.2, which is the development version, and 5.4 security. So we're talking about 6 different branches. And we have a policy in Symfony where we say that whenever there is a bug, it should be fixed in the older, still maintained version. So nowadays, if there is a bug that affects 6.4, it should be fixed in 6.4, which means that then we need to propagate the bug fix everywhere. So we need to merge up all the branches. I can tell you that in the old days, it took the core team a lot of time. Not sure exactly how much time, but I think maybe 25-30% of our time was just about merging branches up. Because as you can imagine, between something that we released 2, 3, 4 years ago and the code base nowadays, many potential differences. Super difficult for humans, super boring, not super interesting. And LLM is super good at understanding the previous state of things, the new state of things, and how to resolve conflicts, right? It's super fast. And in any case, we have tests as guardrails. So we are confident that, the LLM can do the right thing. But again, we still have to wait for confirmation gate, super important as well. So it makes things much faster, and it means that we can have more time for more interesting things like fixing bugs and adding new features. We are using Terraform in an interesting way because we are not managing servers or anything. This is all about making sure that GitHub is consistent across the board. We have so many repositories there that we are extracting. The source of truth is always the mono repository. So we are extracting information from there for the description, tags, etc. And we are propagating them directly into the GitHub repositories. And everything is centralized via teams, which means that depending on the repositories, we have different teams able to do different things. So everything is managed by Terraform nowadays. Super helpful, because in the old days, I was the one creating all the new repositories by hand. It was super time consuming, error prone as well. And as you can imagine, in the last year, creating 80 new repositories just for Symfony AI would have been a lot of work. So super happy that we have that automation now. So as a summary at this point, so SplitSH is more than just splitting the mono repository into many different read-only repositories. It's also about type propagation, GitHub release handling, Terraform, packages synchronization, making sure that everything is synchronized, because we are doing many releases, which means that sometimes packages is not synced properly. So we need to double check that. And the blog post that I've just talked about is going to be part of that server as well, or service as well at some point. This is years of optimizations, I can tell you. Just because 10 years ago, we had maybe 50 or 60 different repositories to manage. And nowadays we have 300 plus, and we are adding more by the day. And it's also about the number of commits. We have way more commits that we used to have. So we need to scale that. And I can tell you that I've spent hours and days and months trying to optimize the splitter. It is probably 4 times faster, or maybe 10 times faster. I think it's something like 10 times faster than it used to be 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Packages also help us a lot with the transition to having many releases with Composer version 2 for many different reasons I'm not going to talk about today. And one thing that we've done to make sure that we are not polluting packages and GitHub with too many tags and releases, we are making sure that we are not doing patch releases when there are no changes in a package, and we are doing kind of an experiment trying to do the same thing with minor version as well, but I think it doesn't work well. So maybe we are going to come back to only patch releases. We have also invested a lot of time in the GitHub CI, because having a fast CI is super important for LLMs and humans as well. I'm not going to talk about it because we've done it could be a talk by itself on all the things we are doing to make sure that we are super fast, but at the same time, we have a huge matrix of things that we want to run, many different PHP version, low depths, high depths, Windows, Linux. I mean, it's kind of overwhelming. Okay, last part of this talk is about AI, and what does it mean for Symfony to be in an AI world, and what are the kind of changes that we are making behind the scenes. I'm not going to talk about Symfony AI because this is it would be a different keynote, of course. I'm talking about how we can leverage AI to kind of scale our operations and how we can automate more or automate better. The first thing is contributions, and this is an interesting one. Nowadays, I would say that a good ticket is a good prompt. So if you create a ticket because you have an issue, if the ticket is detailed enough, it's good enough. We don't need a pull request anymore. I prefer to have a good ticket with all the explanation, something that I can reproduce, or the LLM can reproduce actually. And it's all I need to make sure that my agent can actually do the work for me. And whenever there is a conversation in the ticket, it's even better because it helps with having more context, and maybe there is some implementation hints or things we should do, or context about old ways of doing things, or maybe something that is related to the ticket at hand, etc. It makes things way easier for the agent to actually have a good first shot at fixing the problem. It has consequences for me as well, and probably for many of you here in the room. Tackling the backlog. For some project, I have a huge backlog, and with tickets that have been created many years ago, and whenever I'm looking at them, I'm like, this is a big one. It's going to take time. I need 3, 4, 5 hours in a row to make sure that I can be focused on the problem, understanding all the pros and cons, all the consequences, etc. And sometimes you're like, okay, this is not for today. It's going to be for next week, next month, next year. And all of a sudden you have bugs that have been sitting in the queue for more than 5 years. This is bad, but this is also how it works in the open source world. If someone is motivated enough, it can actually try to find time to fix it. It's also for pull requests. Sometimes you get a pull request with, changes that are impacting things tremendously, and you need a lot of time to actually work on it. Nowadays, with an LLM, I get the motivation to work on them because I know that I'm going to have a partner, and I'm going to kind of have a conversation and back and forth. So the LLM can investigate all the pros, the cons, the consequences, the problems, asking questions. It can generate the first version of the code. And then as a human, I have all the knowledge about the product and all the, the overall strategy and the vision and etc. And I can steer the agent in the right direction and can validate things. I can answer questions, and it still takes a lot of time. Of course, it's not like it's instant, but at least I'm not alone, and I can delegate the tasks that are not super valuable for me or things that I don't want to do anymore. So, and I've done it during the last 3 weeks, maybe on Twig, for instance. I've been submitting many pull requests to fix bugs and adding new features that are kind of interesting, but never found the time before. Again, it's all about automation. Maybe there is a theme here. I want to automate many things. So I have many different skills. I'm adding more about removing deprecations. Whenever we are working on a new major version, we need to remove all the old deprecations. This is super time consuming. Using an LLM is, again, super important. And I have a funny one, the last one, right? Like Fabien. This is a brand new one. I've been working on it for the last 2 weeks and making sure that when I publish a blog post, the tone of voice is kind of similar to mine. Super easy for me because I wrote books and blog posts and everything and documentation. So there is a lot of things out there that have been written by me. And the skill is kind of funny to read. Anyway, security, this is the last one. I'm going to be super quick here. We went from 1 report a month maximum to 1 a day minimum. I think during the last month, we have made a few releases fixing more than 50 different CVEs. As many people are reporting the same bug over and over again because the LLMs are the same for everyone, we need to automate that as well. We need to make sure that we can be quick at releasing things, because if an LLM finds something today, this is a 0 days, right? So we need to fix it ASAP, and we need to make sure that we can protect our customers, which means that we are stopping the coordination with some of the downstream projects we were kind of coordinating, and it means maybe a couple of months between someone reporting something and having the fix. This is not the problem anymore. We have more frequent releases because we need to do those releases. Again, more skills here. The question is it the new normal? Is it the new normal? Is it going to be just, Canada settled? So we fixed most of them and it's going to stop? That I don't know. We'll see maybe in 6 months. Again, we are still investing a lot in Symfony. And I think it's still strong because of everything that is happening behind the scenes. And hopefully you've learned a couple of things about Symfony nowadays. Thank you very much.
Wow, Fabien, thank you. That was really impressive. We have a small audience here with us. They already wanted to applaud. We told them
we can still do it. Yeah,
and people can leave a clap emoji in chat as well.
Everyone,
thank you for your really impressive what it takes to manage Symfony and the whole ecosystem at that scale. We've selected a couple of questions from you from Discord. Now, if you have the time today, Fabien, to go to Discord yourself, because there are a bunch more, we cannot do all of them ourselves here live on stream. If you have the time, I think people would really appreciate it if you went there. So first question here from Andrew. Over the years, he asks, what has been the biggest challenge in steering Symfony when it comes to balancing innovation, like new features, modern stuff, compared to maintaining backward compatibility across major versions? It's something that really interests me as well, so that's why I picked this question. I'm really interested to hear your thoughts about it, Fabien.
Yeah, this is a super interesting question because, as you said, there is a tension here. We have 24 hours a day, and we have something else. We have a job, so this is more or less during the weekends and at night. But we want to make sure that Symfony can stay relevant as well. So we want to adopt new PHP features. We want to make sure that we can innovate. This is the case with Symfony AI. This is the case with Symfony UX that we studied a few years ago. This is super difficult, and that's also why I want us to make sure that we can automate the boring stuff, so the maintenance stuff, and so that we can be more focused on innovation. Something I want to mention here as well is sometimes this is difficult to adopt a new PHP feature because it's super difficult, or a new library or anything, because we don't have a clear upgrade path without breaking backward compatibility. And I think a couple of times we actually ask PHP to do things a bit differently so that we can actually have this upgrade path, because this is the thing that is non-negotiable for Symfony. If there is not an easy upgrade path from one version to the next, we are not going to break backward compatibility. And people are kind of shocked when we are pushing back on something because of that, but I think it's also key to our success. So again, as any open source maintainer, we like to innovate. We like to work on new features. We don't like to spend time doing boring stuff. So automation is key here.
That was clear. Thank you so much for your answer on that one. A quick question about the hot topic of the moment, which is security. You briefly talked a little bit about the challenges with AI and security, and recently we have seen a couple of Symfony releases that target security fixes. I wanted to ask you if you can talk a little bit about that, but also if this is somehow related with Cloud Mythos.
It is definitely, not only. Mythos actually provided us a list of security issues a couple of months ago, maybe. And it was super useful. But then I can tell you that with a good prompt, Opus can also find most of them. So maybe this is a bit more involving. Maybe you need to spend more time. It's, again, I'm not sure if this is something that is going to happen every single month, every single day, or if it's going to be less intense. One thing I can say is that nowadays, so we've just released Symfony 8.1, and we spent a lot of time running agents, making sure that we don't have obvious security issues there, because that's better to have a clean release instead of having something with security issues. So I can tell you that we spent a lot of time during the last 2 months trying to manage the surge of security reports coming from a lot of people. So it's not just about Mythos, it's also about a lot of people trying to help us, trying to find problems and reporting them to the security@symfony.com email so that we can fix them ASAP. So I want to thank everybody sending us those emails, even if we have a lot of them. I think the complexity now is also about doing the triage between things that have been reported already, that we have already a fix for, and things that we are not going to fix because they are not security issues. And we have many of them as well, which makes things a bit more complicated.
Okay, that was super clear. And Fabien, we want to say thanks to you for coming today, but also thanks for everything you do for the PHP ecosystem. Everyone in the chat, let's give a huge clap to Fabien, everyone in the audience as well. Thank you so much, Fabien, for coming today.